Okay, trying to get this video in before my natural light goes away, because once we get in our 40s, the overhead light doesn't look so good on camera. That's just me being that vain, apparently. So this one is a video request by Dode Diaries, and this individual asks, if you haven't answered the question yet, I'm curious as to whether or not you have been scrutinized for being a know-it-all, only because of the fact when you present a topic of confrontation to another. They go on to say, I do 100% of the time when I do, and I'm just reading what they wrote. Because I refuse to bring forth a complex misunderstanding between myself and another without thorough examination of the possible viewpoints that may come up in the event once I decide to present it. I get accused of being robotic at these times because I hate using tactics with frivolous gestures. Curious if this is something that has happened to you as well. So it's timely, I guess, after some of the videos that have been put out there and the uniqueness of the responses on some of them. Well, I have to say that I'll go off the top and say, as for being called a know-it-all, never. I've never been called a know-it-all from what I remember. For me, I am very aware of what the more I know I don't know. And that is very humbling. But at the same time, I'm also very much accused of being bossy and opinionated. And for those two, the bossiness, I find I get accused of that when I am trying to work within a really tight schedule and I'm trying to herd a great phrase I heard before was herding giant toddlers. So if I'm trying to do something that needs to be managed and take care of things, I will end up being bossy. An example is I had a senior leader that I was working with, and he was doing I had to manage his schedule. He was helping me out with a couple of events, and he said that I was bossy, and I was surprised. I thought that I couldn't understand why. And he's like, yeah, you're bossy, you're corralling all of us. And I'm like, I thought about it after, and I'm like, yeah, I absolutely was being bossy. And it's interesting because the lens was different for me, where I was thinking that I was trying to respect the time of the individuals that were in this, because they all took the time out of their schedule to do this effort, these events, and I wanted to make sure that things were running on time and running in control. So, but I mean, this goes into me and my family as well. I'm very bossy because I tend to be more direct with being able to manage timelines and make sure things are done. So I'm not saying that's good or bad, but it's not usually a know-it-all. The second one, when it comes to being opinionated, that is absolutely either a good thing or a bad thing, and it just depends on the time. I find opinions fascinating. I love people that express smart opinions, especially about things I've never heard of. So, and when they bring up, citing different articles that they've read or people that they've met or experiences that they've had, it exposes you to a totally different mindset. So with being opinionated, I get opinionated on certain topics for sure. What I try to work on with my life is how opinionated I come across, because within the wrong context, it comes as overbearing, and that is not something that anyone wants to be. That's just not a acceptable personality trait, is to be called overbearing. So there's a fine line on that. And that is, yes, a definite thing that I try to work on, because the enthusiasm can kind of get over the top on learning new things. I'm just looking at my notes here. So the last thing that I wanted to do or talk about on this is the idea of being robotic. So Dodie Diaries mentions they get accused of being robotic. For myself, I don't usually have that problem. I come across as like the image is more boring, I guess. Like I'm not doing a lot of movement. But if I'm talking with individuals one-on-one, rather than in a video, you can see the finger, this pointy finger coming out a lot. And it's not a finger as in I told you so. That's never it. It is I'm trying to talk about facts. Fact 1, fact 2, fact 3, those types of things. And it's because of, again, the getting excited about dialogue and hearing other people's opinions, and that is somewhat demonstrative over, say, being apparently or looking potentially robotic. So anyways, that's my 2 cents on whether or not I am accused of being a know-it-all. Love to hear your comments. I'm sure there's always going to be good ones. And anyways, also viewing any sort of viewer requests, just put them in the comment section. Thanks.